But, Vic, without further delay, I'm going to pull up my dial pad here, and I'm going to pound in a phone number as quick as I can
get
do
him on
this.
the phone.
Yes, sir. Bam! And let's get this phone ringing. There it is. Little mule to bring him in.
Hello.
Hey, good evening, Jay. It's Big Perm. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. How are you?
Oh, doing well, man. We're sitting here on a Sunday night, super excited to talk to the man who's played an integral role in the music scene in this area for, more than 30 years. And so I'm excited that and honored that you took the time to talk to us tonight, man. Thank you.
Well, no problem. Thank you. I appreciate you thinking of me.
Oh, for sure, man. I mean, almost as long as I am old, you've been doing this. And, if...
That hurts.
And I'm sorry, Jay. But when I'm driving at the point I'm trying to make is that for all my life, it's been Jay Goldberg bringing these great national acts to town. And, I've got a lot of friends in the music business that know you. And I've never had a chance to meet you personally, but I figured, heck, if I could even talk to him on the phone and hear about the great stories, man, that'd just be really cool. So once again, thank you. And I wanted to introduce you to my road dog. My co-host every Sunday night is a guy by the name of Vic Nasty. Are you there, Vic?
Oh, I'm here. It's great to have you on, Mr. Goldberg, and can't wait to hear what you got to tell Central Illinois.
Well, thank you very much, and I'm happy to be here and hope I can enlighten you guys. I can give you some information that is interesting. It'll be interesting. I guess that's the main thing.
Well, for sure. And, there's a lot of current stuff that we'll get to, the shows that are coming to town, summer camp and all kinds of fun stuff. But I've always wanted to know, where did it start, man?
Well, actually, it all started back in about 1971, and I had flunked out of college and had to figure out what to do, and went to work for a hardware store in Peoria, and realized real quick that I think I need to create my own business, and so I opened up a record store. Punching the clock wasn't my thing exactly. So, but I'd been interested when the couple of years I was at college. I went to Northern Illinois University. I got very much involved in the coffee house circuit, and I was involved with a group of people that were putting on the local coffee house in DeKalb. And so we were bringing in a lot of folk music, acoustical type thing, bands and stuff like that. And so when I got back home, it was just kind of a natural. I wanted to kind of stay with that. So I opened up a little record store in Pekin, Illinois. And actually my son Ian was just born. And so we named the store Ian's Music Parlor. And but within just a couple of months, we opened up another location in Peoria. I hooked up with a couple of people that were promoting shows in Peoria, and so we all kind of joined together, and we opened up a new record store in Peoria called Budget Tapes and Records. And so one of the things we kind of knew that one way to get people to come into the record store would be to be a ticket outlet. And there really wasn't anybody else doing concerts. So we started doing concerts, and we had a place out just north of Peoria, and it was called The Barn. And we started doing shows there. And at the same time, I was cultivating the record business, and we opened up a few more stores, and pretty soon we had a chain of stores throughout the Midwest. And so I thought, maybe we should do some touring. So we actually are the first kind of multi-city tour I did was with Cheap Trick.
Oh, yeah, and
so they were out of Rockford, and we put them on in, I don't remember exactly, but Peoria, Springfield, up to Davenport, over to Des Moines, up to Iowa City, and Ames, Iowa, over to Rockford. And we did I think it was like a 7-city tour with them. And been working on it ever since.
Well, Jay, you'd mentioned the barn. A former guest of ours, Mike Eisenberg, we had him on maybe 2 months ago, and we had talked a bit about the barn and the scene back in Pekin in the late 60s and early 70s. And as I was looking and digging for information on the barn, I mean, you guys brought some of the best national acts through that place. It's still there today. It's the HOI. I forgot what it's called. They show horses there still. It's still a horse barn.
They show horses, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had quite a run of shows. I mean, everything from Alice Cooper, the Allman Brothers were there, Edgar Winters, obviously REO. We had Blood Rock, bands like Cactus.
Well, you mentioned Blood Rock. I was talking to my dad last night, telling him that I'd be talking to you tonight, and he mentioned a show with Pot Liquor, Blood Rock, and another group. And he says he had just come back into town that night and went to the show, and in between one of the acts there was a wedding.
Right, and I do. I remember that.
And, well, the gal that got married was one of his ex-girlfriends, and he's like, man, he goes, I had no idea. But he shared some stories about the barn, and, man, that sounded like a damn good time.
It was. It was definitely it was a lot of fun. We had some amazing entertainment there, and it really became the roots for the 70s rock music scene in Peoria for sure.
Well, and one question I had, Jay, especially talking back then in the 70s, and then as you've worked through the 80s, the 90s, and up to today, the business has changed a lot. And when it comes to your business, booking bands and putting on shows, what's the one thing that you miss from the old days compared to what it is now?
Well, I think what I probably miss the most is the real coordination between the record label and the artist, and how you actually developed an artist worked. They get the record deal. Today, it's almost impossible for a band to get a record deal, and they, especially with what you'd call a major label. So now the industry is so much with independent labels. Now there's a big lot of pluses to that too. Don't get me wrong here, but that relationship of the real building of the artist, we used to just really thrive on that. Where in addition to us having our record stores, so the bands would. Back then, bands toured to sell records. Today, they're not touring to sell their recorded product. They're touring to earn a living.
Right.
And so that's what's really changed over the years. And I miss that part of it, where again, people were really into the art of the album, not so much the hits, the hits. So it's changed quite a bit in that manner.
Well, and one awesome recording studio out in South Pekin was Golden Voice, and there were a lot of albums cut out of that place. And unfortunately, it burned down. And those albums are probably all that's left as far as physical material or memories that would come from that place, I guess. And this digital age that we live in, I can see where the disconnect is. I mean, people want the instantaneous and gratification. And I myself, growing up as a youngster, I pilfered my old man's album collection, and it definitely was a different era and a different time. And still up to today, I mean, the shows that you bring to town, one of my favorite bands, Government Mule, is coming on the 20th. I'm really excited about that. And what I wanted to ask about was, working with these different venues, because you're not only here in Central Illinois, you do shows down in Florida, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Ian did something down in South America. As far as the booking of the shows and the venues today, what I'm getting at, I guess, is a lot of places, it's for bands and up and coming bands. It's almost like a pay to play option is out there at some places. What's your take on that as far as guys just renting out a hall versus somebody working with a promoter like yourself?
Right. Well, you're about the second or third person that's asked me recently about this pay to play. We've never, I don't want to say had the luxury of a band actually paying me to play. I've never heard of that.
Right.
We, with the same token is when we produce a show, we really are looking for each band that's on the bill, whether it's the opening act or the middle act or the headliner or what it is. Each band needs to have an element of a draw because we're very ticketed sale oriented. So we're really not in the business of doing bands that maybe nobody knows who they are. So how do you sell tickets?
Right, tough deal.
Because, and the reason and obviously the reason for that is we want to make a living. That's for sure. But the other thing is the costs involved in these shows, the rentals of the venues, the production, the sound systems, the lighting systems, everything, the travel expense to and from. The bands they're on the road. It's very, very costly. So. We've really never gotten into where the bands pay us to play. Now, there are occasions when bands maybe self-promote themselves and they'll go in maybe and rent the place themselves, find a place and put up all of the expenses and hope that people come and,
right.
And
probably lose their ass on the show.
Well, and what makes it really tough for them is in maybe, in today's world it's different, but, they're not really selling, what they're hoping to do is people come to the show and now maybe they'll buy their product. And, if a lot of people don't even have CD players anymore, So
right, it's all digital.
It's downloadable and it's all digital. So they sell that, they sell the shirts, it's their merchandise, and that's how bands make it on the road. Obviously, until they get to a point where a promoter like myself maybe would be looking to take them on because we could obviously sell tickets to cover all of the expenses and pay the salaries of all my staff and my overheads and stuff. So it's really gotten to be a business, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right, for sure.
It's much more business is business, and it has its pluses and minuses.
Well, and Jay, I wanted to throw it over to my co-host, Vic Nasty. I know he's chomping at the bit.
Mr. Goldberg, I mean, how influential was owning, the record stores throughout the Midwest in bringing in, bands, or was that ever a selling point for you?
Yeah, it was definitely. I was so fortunate that I fell into it at the right, I guess, time of history in the music business, because it was not only would we have record stores in the different markets where we would produce shows, but then the bands would come in, they do in-store appearances, autographs, they'd sell their product. And when we were able to offer acts multiple markets that we could help produce, in other words, my role as a promoter is mostly to work with the agents and the managers to help develop the acts that they're working with and that they're developing. So when we could give them those types of offerings. And so, of course, now my hope was we would work with them at that level. We'd help bring them up. And then when they did become an arena level act, then we'd get those dates. And that would be our investment and return on the whole thing. So it was pretty influential. It's definitely not that way today. Record stores are great places to find some nostalgia product, and I love to, look through the bin, so to say, of a record store, but that's really not much of the direction for the traveling touring artists anymore.
Have you noticed is there anything that really sticks out to you from the acts and the talent from the early 70s as opposed to, the different talent in the acts of now?
I'm just really impressed with the bands today, the talent today. It's like I don't even know how they can come up with the music that they come up with today. In the 90s and maybe the early 2000s, it was like a lot of repetition, not as original of music styles, and you kind of thought, man, nobody can. I mean, how can anybody outdo Zeppelin? How can anybody? They've already done it. Clapton's already wrote it, or whatever. The Beatles have sung it, and it just kind of like there's really where can people go? But this last, in my opinion, these last maybe 15 years, it's just blown me away that how creative the new bands and the new artists of today are. I mean, we do a lot of stuff like the summer camp bands, Humphreys, McGee, Moe. I mean, they're mind blowers. I don't even know how they can come up with that.
Jay, the first time that I saw Humphreys McGee was 2012 out at summer camp, and all my friends listened to them. I'd never heard their music, and I was like, "What's the big deal?" And then I went and saw one of their sets, and I'm like, "Oh, now I get it." Those guys
and you know
are
what?
amazing.
It's true, and there are so many. I'm not the best name dropper type, person, but there are so many really amazing bands out there now.
Well, and speaking of summer camp, because it's a great way for people, especially here in Central Illinois and all over the country that come, to see these up and coming bands and these different bands showcase what they have to offer. I mean, I've been doing the festival thing since, the late 90s. And when summer camp first started, to what it is today, I mean, you guys have blown that thing out of the water. It's so huge. And I wanted to ask, just take us, kind of from the humble beginnings of that to this thing that we see today with Ferris wheels and all kinds of fun stuff.
Gotcha. Well, we started like I guess it would be about 14 years ago. My son Ian, who is very much with me in the industry and in the business, he had this concept. He was he still lives in the Champaign-Urbana area, but he had this idea of doing this festival. He was working with a band called Leftover Salmon, and the idea was to do a little camping festival. We found we did it in just outside of Champaign, where there's a place called Lake of the Woods.
Lake of the Woodstock in Mahomet. I was there.
There you go. We decided to call it Lake of the Woodstock.
Yes.
And that was our first one, and then we got wind that the location really didn't work very well. It was a mobile home sales park or something like that with a little lake.
Yeah, right off 74 there. Yeah, I remember that one.
Exactly. So we got wind, though, then of a little tour going out and it was called the Summer Sessions. And there were some, like, bands such as Government Mule, but also the String Cheese Incident, Moe, and I think Keller Williams, I think. And we did that show called the Summer Sessions at Three Sisters Park in Chillicothe. And you know what? I think we had 750 people came, maybe 1,000 came. It was raining and everything. But then Ian hooked up with the manager of the band Moe, and he actually was out at a convention with him, an industry convention, and those two kind of hung around a little bit and started talking about it and came up, well, wouldn't it be kind of cool to have a festival? Mo does a festival out west called out east called Modown. And Ian going, what if you did that here? And we just, every year we made it be like Mo and Friends. And so that became the first year of summer camp. And it's just grown. Humphreys McGee came on board and took more and more over the next couple of years, got really, popular and liked our festival. And Keller's come back time after time, and it just took off. And every year we've grown and grown and grown. And this year we had over 20,000 people.
Damn, that's just crazy, to see what it is today. And from, Lake of the Woodstock, I mean, I was there, and it was, to see it today, it's just awesome, man. And one, I guess a couple of questions I had about summer camp. And I've heard, and this is just rumors through the grapevine that I hear from people, and I figured, I got Jay on, I'm going to ask him. Are there any plans on moving the festival?
Well, you happen to be very, very timely.
Really?
So I guess you could say I'm almost giving you the exclusive. This is the first time it's been heard is going to be right now.
Awesome.
Well, there you go.
We actually have just renegotiated for another 5 years for there, and we've it was Friday when we shook hands with the park people, and because our contract had come up, we had a multi-year agreement with them, and it had come up. There were lots of rumors that we were moving. In fact, someone told me I bought like 600 acres in Champaign County or something. I'm going, wow, that'd be nice to have.
To me, huh?
So there was a lot of exaggerated rumors. However, the contract was up, and you never know. So we were making sure we were prepared, and but it was really easy. The city of Chillicothe really loves summer camp. We won them over, and along with Three Sisters Park, they definitely wanted us to stay, and so they welcomed us. So we've agreed to make it happen. So we're staying.
Awesome. Well, you heard it here first on the Big Perm Show. Summer camp ain't going nowhere. Not for a while anyway. We like it there. It's we want to stay summer camp. We want to stay the eclectic. We obviously we're expanding a little bit in the music genres. Sure.
We began as a jam band thing, but in my opinion, the genre of jam band has really expanded so much. I mean, let's throw in a little funk, and let's throw in a little bluegrass, and it's just expanded so much. So, and like this year we had Zach Brown Band came, and he killed it. He came out, he did all these awesome cover songs, Pink Floyd and Zeppelin, and but we have to expand our genres a little bit, but we don't want to really become, say, corporate Bonnaroo type of a festival.
That's good to hear. I'm glad to hear you say that, Jay. So glad.
Well, it's definitely, I have to say, business, it is business, and,
yes,
we do have a huge nut to make this happen. So, we have to price the tickets of what we do, and, but, I think we've been able to keep it pretty fair, and, I hope so. I just, we get a lot of great reviews, and, but yeah, no, we're trying not to become too, we just want a good, that's one of the things that we're really unique about. Hey, we do get some complaints, but in general is, we don't allow the cars to park by the tents. And
right.
It just creates a whole new tent city type atmosphere that I think people like.
And I think for a lot of people, periodically when the festival comes to town, there's some negative press, the police presence and all that good crap. And there's a lot of naysayers, and I can guarantee you that those that are out there naysaying have never been. And I always encourage those people to go to summer camp. Go experience what it is and realize for yourself that it's not what others make it out to be all the time. And,
right. Well, that's where
one thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jay.
I'm sorry. Well, I was just going to say, I think that's where we kind of helped win over the people of Chillicothe. Is in the earlier years, they were really afraid of us. But as now they've met all the kids and all ages that come to town, and we were giving tours of the festival and stuff like that, and they realized, what? I've been to a Chicago Bears tailgate party that's just as crazy,
Right, more rockets than this.
Yeah, more rockets, So it's summer camp's pretty laid back, But I mean, people have a good time. You can party. We want you to have a great time, and sometimes the police do get a little over rambunctious. It isn't so much the police of Chillicothe; it's some of the outlying areas that. They look at it as a revenue source. It's not like they're really arresting people. They're giving them tickets.
Yeah, exactly. A new stream of revenue.
Yeah, and so sometimes I wish people would quit fighting and maybe pay some taxes to help the communities so they wouldn't be having to create all these other revenue sources.
Right.
Or just legalize, recreational use of marijuana so that isn't a reason to pull people over to get a ticket,
Exactly.
It's crazy. I can get on
Rick, I wanted to throw it over to you, homeboy.
Well, Mr. Goldberg, wouldn't you also say that little bit of wild and woolly time, wouldn't you say that's a bit of a draw, too, for people to see what it's all about?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Jay, I wanted to ask you, in the years that you've been doing this, I know you've got a lot of fond memories, a lot of great stories with a lot of superstars that you could share with us. And I just wanted to ask if you had this one ultimate story that you could share with us and the listeners, from your years of working in the industry.
Well, what they say, a lot of these people are still alive, so I really can't speak out. But
yeah, I don't want you to throw nobody under the bus or put them on Front Street or nothing.
I'm going to tell you one that was pretty amazing for me, and it probably is not what anybody's expecting me to say or anything. But when I was 16 years old, my cousin and I drove to Chicago, and we went to because he had his license and could use his dad's car. And we went to Chicago. We went to the Chicago Amphitheater, and we saw the monkeys. And,
hell yeah.
It's kind of a two-part story real quick. One is I remember looking at my cousin, and there was this opening act. And I remember looking at my cousin going, who is that guy? And like 20 years later, I heard the story, and it was documented, that Jimi Hendrix opened up for the Monkees, and he played 3 gigs, and then they fired him because he was blowing them off the stage. And that was Jimi Hendrix. But the story I was going to say was now, I went and saw the Monkees, and they were really cool too. Michael Nesmith, was amazing. But 25 years later, the Monkees went out did their 25th anniversary tour of the Monkees, and I had the opportunity to be the promoter of record for one of their shows. And so after the show, Mickey Dolenz, who was the drummer, and I went out. We hung out together, and we're shooting pool. And I'm looking at him, and I go, Mickey, 25 years ago, I was like a young kid in the audience watching you, the Monkees, and now here I am, your promoter. And it was just a really cool feeling.
Oh, no doubt, man. And I'm sure over the years, you've probably experienced that more than once. And some of working with some of the people that you saw at one point as a fan, and
yeah,
I'm a huge music nut. I'm such a fan, and what you do in promoting concerts. I mean, and you talking about that drive to Chicago, that's one of the best feelings in the world for me is hitting the road and going to see a show. Whether I'm driving to Chicago or over to Indy, or down to St. Louis, somewhere around the Midwest. It's probably at least for me, one of the best feelings in the world, to hit the road and go see that show. And
yeah,
it's 2 or 3 hours of just, escape from reality that a guy like you provides to us.
Well, see, and that's what is my biggest thrill is when the lights go down and the stage lights come up and all those people, I'll stand off, to the side and I just watch. And for that 90 minutes, that the 3 hours, whatever the show is, all those people in the audience all have a story to tell. There's something, they all have something going on in their life. And for that concert, they've let go. They've come to that show. It's all about the music and for the entertainment. And to know that I'm just a small piece of the puzzle that helped put that together, that really brings a chill to me for every show I ever do.
And
that's why I'm still doing it today, I guess.
Oh, yeah, man. And again, I got to say thank you for all the shows you brought to town. I've seen a lot of them. Another question I had for you about Peoria and one of its venues, the old Madison Theater. There's talk about it being renovated and what have you. If Jay Goldberg had his druthers, would you like to see that thing renovated as a venue and start doing shows there, bringing people in again?
Yeah, and the key word is renovated, not restoration, to me.
Okay.
I think if they renovated it to be a very viable venue again, I know we've actually been in talks. Every once in a while, a developer will come to mind, and I'm not the type of a developer that could take on a project because if it's the Madison right now, you're talking about the whole block, and it's got to have and the city has got their eye on it now. So there's a few different developers that are very interested in it, and I have been talking to one of them about what you could do in there and how it works and potential management of it and stuff. I think when they start talking about restoring it, it gets scary because what happens when you talk about restoring it back to its original grandeur self, then all of a sudden they start getting picky about what can go in there. And, I think there should be all genres of music allowed in the venue. So I'm hoping that it can get renovated to be a viable place.
Bring it up to date, modern.
In other words, if a chair gets broken, so you fix it,
Right.
And that's the thing is you look at a lot of these theaters that have been restored, and they've they're beautiful and they're grandiose but they don't want any rock and roll in there. They don't want any harder edge stuff in there. And so that's I would really like to see them. It's a shame that it hasn't been done. Well, I was in the Madison. We had the lease on it for several years, and basically the code violations got so out of hand that we couldn't, keep it up because we didn't own the building.
Well, and
the owners said let's board it up. So.
Yeah, and to fix it, I mean, it's no small feat. I mean, it's going to cost millions of dollars, whether it's restored or renovated. Either one, it's millions of bucks, and so it's a big deal. And me personally, I saw so many great shows there through the '90s. Just so many memories, and if that basement could speak, holy cow! If the walls of that basement could speak, oh my God!
I know. Goodness. It was great. Good. It was a good time. It was kind of a recreation of the years we had at the barn too. The same caliber of artists, the artists that were happening played the Madison Theater, and hopefully one day it'll open up again, and I don't know if it'll be in my lifetime or not.
I always had my fingers crossed. I always had my fingers crossed that you guys would bring my favorite band through the Madison, that being Tool. I would have loved to have seen them there. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Oh, man. You know that we've done Tool a couple of times, and we did do them at the Canopy Club in Champaign quite a while ago.
Right.
I mean, like way in the early days. But I had the opportunity to bring Tool to the Peoria Civic Center. And I tell you what, I knew that Tool would sell out, okay? I mean,
yes,
I knew even my son Ian went to, I think he went to San Francisco to a concert to see him. I mean, people were going everywhere. I never really had heard them, but, when I had the opportunity to bring them to Peoria, it was a no-brainer,
right.
From a promoter point of view. Well, usually when we'll do a show, when the band comes out on stage, I usually will stand out. Like I said, that's that time when I watch the lights go down and the stage lights go up, and I look at the audience and I watch a song or two, and I just, get that feeling of how cool it is. And then I usually have to go back and work on business, settlements,
or whatever. Back to work.
With Tool, I was mesmerized. They are my favorite band right now.
Mine too.
And I had an opportunity. We did Maynard. We actually got to bring Maynard's side project, A Perfect Circle, and we did them in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And to do that show down there, Tool was playing Lollapalooza, Chile, like a few days before, and then the Lollapalooza in Brazil. So we had an opportunity, we had like a week in between. So he came and did that show. It was really cool. But when you mention Tool, I can go off on Tool. I love them.
Oh, Jay, I have seen those guys. God, I can't even count, more than a dozen times, and I've traveled the ends of the earth to see them. They are so awesome. And I got to say, as the last thing on Tool, Maynard, that guy is just genius. Whatever he touches, whatever project he puts out there, whether it's Perfect Circle or Pussifer or his wine, everything is just the shit. Maynard James Keenan rock.
That's right. Actually, and I'm glad you said that, because it was Pussifer that was playing at the Lollapalooza. I just they've got to be the most Tool, the tightest band. They're just so tight. They're. And
that's, I think, a lot of people who aren't either a musician or aren't in the industry may not. I don't want to say this, but may not have quite the appreciation that I would. You're right. As musicians go, especially their drummer, holy cow, they are just so tight and spot on, and the timing that those guys use is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, Jay,
I'm not a musician.
Their music is so intricate. Sorry about that, but their music is so intricate that if you're not spot on, you're not tight, it'll just completely go to hell.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'm a wannabe musician, so I was the kid that had the Fender Super Reverb amp, but couldn't play the guitar, and all the garage. This is like in high school. All the garage bands would say, "Hey Jay, we're gonna be jamming Saturday afternoon. Why don't you come? Oh, and bring your amp."
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, Jay, listen. When I messaged you, I told you we'd only be on for maybe 15 or 20 minutes, and we've gone about 40 or 45 minutes, and I just don't want to suck up your Sunday night, man. I wanted to say thank you for taking the time tonight, and I wanted to throw it back over to Vic Nasty and see if he had any last questions.
Nope, I can't wait to see what else is coming in the area you're bringing in, Mr. Goldberg, and I'll definitely be ready and waiting.
Well, I appreciate it very much, the opportunity. It's fun. This was fun. You guys were easy on me and fun, and I hope hopefully we can meet in person one of these days.
Hell yeah.
Well, Jay, I tell you what, I'll be down at the Government Mule Show on the 20th. I'll be looking for you. Just look for my bald head.
Yeah, definitely. Well, okay, and you look for my gray hair. And
you got it, sir.
You know.
Well, Jay, listen, for
yeah.
myself, my co-host Vic, I tell you what, before I wrap it, for our listeners, how can they find out more about what you're bringing to town, and then how can they stay in touch with you and what you're doing?
Oh, thanks so much. I appreciate that. My website for our company is an easy one. It's jaytv.com. And, it's got all the listings of our shows. It's pretty easy to look at. If you want, you can sign up for our mailing list, and we don't over-spam you, but we'll send you an email blast, weekly, and keep you up with what's going on. And we have a lot of stuff going on. It kind of blows my mind what all we have going on.
I'm telling you. Well,
I have
myself,
I have a great team, so a great staff, and great.
And you mentioned team and staff. We've got a mutual friend, acquaintance, Mr. Jason Miles. I went to high school with him.
Oh yeah.
He's a good buddy of mine. Ryan Weiss is another good buddy, and a lot of these local guys. And I guess, Jay, one last question I have for you, because a lot of the local bands, listen to my show. The guys in Steady Flow, they're out in North Carolina right now listening to us. Would you have any words of advice to give to these local guys that are, really trying to make it on the national scene?
Well, obviously, I probably don't have anything to say if they haven't heard over and over again, and I know it's a lot harder, easier said than done. For us to decide, how do we put bands on and how we don't? The real key is we listen to the fans. It's easy for a band to call and tell us how great they are, but when the fans call them, their fans do, then that gives us a gauge that people are really into the band and that they're asking to see them. So from a promotion, again, I'm coming from the promoter side of the business.
And that's what I wanted, yes,
how
sir.
To get on, and that's what it takes. It takes the people saying, hey, you should have this band, as opposed to really the band saying, hey, you should do us, because we'll draw a lot of people. And that's probably the best advice that I could really say is, you get strong on the social medias and get your fans, sharing your information and sending in requests and just keep playing and be out there. And, you might go into a city and the first time you play, there's 30 people there. But you know what? The next time you go, there's 75, then there's 100. That's what catches our eye as promoters.
Excellent. Well, Jay, thank you for that as well. And for myself and Vic Nasty and everybody listening tonight, just want to say thank you again for, taking the time to talk to us tonight, and I'll see you next weekend.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and peace, love, and thanks so much.
Hey, you're welcome, Jay. Take care and have a great night, bub.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. All righty, Vic Nasty.
Hell yeah.
Mr. Jay Goldberg of Jay Goldberg Events and Entertainment. Bringing all kinds of kick-ass shows to Peoria. Oh, and that little thing we call summer camp, yeah, he does that too.